convert this calculator UI into a real working calculator like you can see on my web browser. So we built everything with React.js, and you're gonna enjoy how we built it because it's gonna expose you to many things on React. So there's a lot of calculations here, and the way you build this calculator on React.js isn't the same way you build it just using JavaScript. This calculator is very functional because you can even add numbers. We can also multiply numbers. So let's say 6 times 3. We can even delete. We can also change numbers to negative number. Let's say we want to change a number we put there to a -1, and we can also reconvert that to a +1, and it's still going to perform the same operation for us, which is -1. So we can also add numbers. We can also delete numbers and also multiply, as well as division and percentage. So this is just a full working calculator we built here using React.js, and it's going to be something you're going to enjoy. Let's get started. So I'm going to open my Commander. As you all know, I love using Commander a lot, and I'm going to switch over to my YouTube folder. And here I'm going to create a React application. In nps create React app. I'm going to call this calculator. So at the end of this tutorial, you're going to get the full source code on the description. So kindly hit the like button and also the subscribe button to follow along. Now that our app is created, I'm going to go over to that folder and I'm going to open it. So sorry for that. That is calculator. And I'm going to open it on Visual Studio Code. So while that is being opened, I'm going to go over to Google Fonts, fonts.google.com. I'm going to grab a font called Roboto. So right here, you could see I have Roboto fonts, and I'm going to select that. And I'm going to add all the font styles. So we have thin, italic. So I'm just going to select all of them. And I'm going to select the import and copy this import URL and come over to my CSS. Go over to the source folder, and inside the app.css, I'm going to paste that at the top level there. So make sure you save that on that file. Then I'm going to delete every other thing that ain't necessary. So let me just quickly delete all the files that we don't need. So right now, basically what we just need is the app CSS, the app.js, and also the index.js file. So let me just go ahead and increase this font size. I'm going to remove all the CSS that we don't need. So I'm just going to select from there and clear everything. And then come inside this app.js file. I'm going to remove the logo, then delete every other thing we have inside that app. So this is a div, and I'm going to call this one, I'm going to give it a class name of container, and then save that. So inside this index.js file, I'm going to clear everything here, and then remove the imports and also delete this index.css. So now we are done setting up the files that we need. So let's go back to our Commander and then clear everything and then run npm start, which is going to compile our application and give us a URL which we can actually use to see that application while it reloads for us. So if everything was done perfectly without any error, we should see the app compiled successfully, and we can go over to our browser and refresh, which is going to take away this one and show us just an empty screen. Right now, let's start with the styling. I'm going to go over to here. I'm going to paste some default styles, which I just copied. So these styles are necessary, but I don't want us to waste time typing it down. So we have the default color, default text color, and then we have a white color there. Then we have different type of blacks and also the main black. So these are just default styles that we need. And inside the body, we just want everything to be aligned to center. So I kind of did a duplicate here. This is not really necessary, so just get rid of that. So inside this one, we have to display grid. So we basically use this one to give it a height, to give the, okay, I don't think we need this because we just targeted the container right here. So pardon me for that. So let's just go ahead and save that. We don't need that. Then inside the body, we just gave it a background color and displayed everything grid because we want everything to be in the center. That's why we justified and aligned everything to the center, and then made sure it's used the 100% column, that's 100% width and height. So, and also we just got rid of the scroll bar because we don't need that scroll bar. Let's quickly go over to the app.js file, and inside here, I'm gonna create a new component called calculator. and I'm going to import that calculator from, we're going to create a folder called components and then a file called calculator. So this is components/calculator. So I kind of make a lot of mistakes because I use recommendation a lot, but that's not a nice thing. So I suggest that you also as well should get used to typing rather than using recommendation. So I'm just going to create a component folder and I'm going to create a file called calculator, which is a component, and then we can use the RFCE to bring in the functional based component. You can just decide to change this to ESs, but this is kind of cool as well. And let's go over to the app.js and make a correction here. So changing that to capital C. So that's it, and let's go over and do some styling before we proceed. Let's start by styling the container. So right here we have the container class, and we're gonna display everything to flex. Oh, sorry guys, you also have to make sure you target that container class. So we have display flex. So I'm just used to using auto recommendation. That's why I kind of make a lot of mistakes. So we have to align the items to center, another mistake, which is really bad for me. And then we also want to justify the content to the center, and then we have to give it a padding of 5 frame. That 5 frame, 0.5 frame is half of 16 pixels. Then we have maximum width of 750 pixels, and give it a margin left auto, margin right of auto also. So this makes this container to be in the center, and then we're gonna have a calculator class, which is this calculator right here. So let me just go ahead and give it a class name of calculator. So back in the app.css as well, we are gonna style this. So we can actually say something like calculator, or we can just target it directly. So let's kind of see the preview of what we are doing. So you could see at the end, this kind of stays in the center because we justified and aligned everything to the center. And it also does have a height, a maximum width, not a height, which is 750 pixels. So the calculator itself is gonna have a height. So this one itself is gonna have a height. So for the height, I want it to use the native viewport. So if I kind of give this, let's say 1 pixels solid red, you're gonna see the height over there. So let's check that in the browser. You could see we have a height right now, and also we can give it a width, which is 330 pixels. I want to give it a background color of, I want to use the main black as the background color, as well as give it a border radius of 0.5 frame units. Then we have to give it a box shadow as well, which is 0 pixels as top, right, bottom, and left. So we just want it to use the RGBA of 0.0, which is black, but we just want an opacity of 50%, So that's it for the container itself. Then I'm gonna get rid of this border, like the border as well, not the box shadow. So when we check that, you could see we have this nice looking background. So we don't actually have anything inside the calculator component yet. We're gonna do that. We're gonna fix that ASAP. I'm gonna close all the files that we don't need. So I'm gonna go over to these calculator components, and then we can add some things. Back on checking on the designs, I want to show you something. Right here we have some let's say some groups we do have this button group here. We also have this screen view. Then we have another group that displays the computation, and then we have the group that houses the buttons. So these are like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we don't just go ahead to like use div. I want to bring something here, and I'm going to give this a class name of wrapper. So this wrapper is going to wrap every other thing there. Then we are going to have that 4 group I just mentioned. 4. So 3 of these is going to have a CTC class. So let me just put a class name. I'm going to add CTC class here. So I'm just going to copy that and duplicate that into 2. So that's just like making something to be a little bit fast. So back in the design right here, the first one contains the group of buttons. I'm going to call this a C type. So this C type is going to have a button, like double button, I mean. Then inside here, we're going to give it a class name. I want to give this a class name of active, because one is going to currently be active while the other one wouldn't be active. So this one is not going to have anything, but this one is going to have a text called converter, while this one is going to have a text called calculator. So the second div there is going to have a screen, which is the screen, and inside the screen we have a div. Remember, we have a history, so we have a class name of calculator history, a history answer, which is going to have we're going to have a class name. Sorry for that, guys. It's going to have a class name of solid FA clock, and then we're going to have a text as well that displays the previous answer. So let me just add 1, 2, 3, 4 for now. So you probably might be confused why we are adding an icon. Don't worry, I'm going to show you what we're going to do for this icon, because we're going to use the font awesome icon in this tutorial as well. So beneath that, we're going to have a div that is going to house our answer. So I'm going to give this a class name of C answer, and inside of it is going to have a span. So let me just add 0 as a text. Then beneath that, we have the compute, which is going to show us all the imputations that we have been added, or all the operands. Then here we're going to have a button, which is going to be a button of delete a text. Let's say we want to delete a single character from our numbers. I'm going to give it a class name of C reverse. So this button is going to have something called value. So let me just give it an RV there. And then we are going to also have an icon, which is going to have a class name of FA solid, FA rotate left. We're going to have a span as well. The span that houses the operand itself. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's save that and go down. So right here is the box that houses all these buttons, because we've done adding all this. For this button itself, we're gonna give it a class name of cgrid. Then we're gonna add numerous button right here. So we are gonna have as many buttons. How many buttons do we have? So basically, when we count it, we have 1, 4, 8, 16, 32, 33, 34, 35, 35 buttons. So I'm just gonna add right here. We don't actually need type, so we just need a class name, which is gonna be top button. And so why you're actually seeing this top button class is because it's a special type of button. So I'm still gonna show you why we added that. Then each button is gonna have a value. The first one there has an AC, and then the text is gonna be AC. So I'm not gonna like waste time typing all this down, because you know we have like 35 buttons. So I'm just gonna copy and paste that. So right here you could see we have all the buttons brought down. we have the top buttons. So the top buttons are actually these buttons right here. They kind of define color than these. And then we have special type of buttons for all the buttons at the right. So that's why we have the special class for this one. We also have a special class for this one, this one, this one, and as well this one. So what else? So that's it basically for the buttons. Then let's go ahead and start styling all this we just put down. But before we proceed, let me just go ahead and show you why we added some of these icons. So if you can see right here, we do have an icon here. We have an icon here as well. That's why we have an icon here with a class name. So this is basically font awesome icon. I'm just gonna grab that from font awesome 5. So just make sure you have the font awesome CDN imported right inside your index.js file inside its public folder. So I have mine right here. You can just go ahead and use this link if you want, or you can just go ahead and create yours and then add it at the top here. Let's check in the browser and see everything we've done. So everything we've done is kind of looking very, very bad. So I guess you don't like it, of course. So it's kind of looking so bad, but we are still gonna find a way to fix that with just CSS. Let's go over to the styling aspect of this, and it kind of will make sense if we are actually seeing what we are styling when we are currently styling that. So first of all, I'm gonna have a global button style. This is just gonna affect all the buttons, not just the buttons with some specific style. We're gonna remove all the border, and also I wanna remove all the box shadow. And then we're gonna have a color. I'm just gonna give all the buttons a default text color. So we have this default text color there. Then for the cursor itself, I'm gonna make it a pointer so that whenever we hover with our mouse over a button, so instead of it to be just a cursor, it's gonna now turn to a pointer. So that's saved, and right now you could see we have a pointer, and also our colors did apply. Then for all the special button, it's gonna have a different style. And mind you, inside these buttons here, we do have a sign, I think. Okay, we don't have a sign class. I thought I did add that. Okay, let's continue. Right here we have a special button. Now the special button itself is gonna have a background color of default color. So remember, it's a bluish color right here. So our default color is actually a blue color. So let's go up. You could see the default color while we define the CSS variables. So let's save that and check back in the browser. You could see most of those buttons are now using that blue. The next thing we have to do is to space out everything inside the wrapper. And then I'm going to target the wrapper class. We have to display everything there as grid. And then we have the grid auto rows of 10%, 28%, 11%, and 51%. There are better ways to do this as well, but doing it this way also is not really bad. And then we're gonna give it a height of 100% to make use of the initial height, and it's gonna span out. So let's make sure it's actually correct. So we have C wrapper right here. I just used wrapper, so that was supposed to be C wrapper. So that should definitely space this out. So I was wondering why we don't have an effect. That's probably because we didn't add a dot in front of that. So right now you could see we have it spaced out. Then for each CTC class, we are gonna give it a padding of 0.5 frame. That is for the top and bottom. And then from the left and right, it's gonna be a padding of 1 rem. So we're gonna have this nice space right here. Then for the C-type buttons, the buttons at the top here that actually displays what kind of calculator we want to use. Maybe in the future we are going to build a converter, but for now we are working on the calculator. So for each of these buttons right here, so this is actually showing me it's not a button. I think That was actually supposed to show. Okay, they are actually joined together. Sorry for that, guys. So we have the C type, and then we target the buttons. But before we target the buttons, let's go ahead and apply a grid to each of those buttons. So we have to display grid, and then I want them to have the same amount of width. So we use the grid template columns, and I'm gonna make it repeat that twice and then for each fragment. So when we save, it's gonna span it out, and then I want a little bit of margin top of 0.5 frame and also an overflow of hidden. Then for each of those buttons, we're gonna have a padding of 0.5 frame units, a background color. So we have a background color of black first. So when we save that, we kind of see the buttons clearly right now. And then let's go ahead and size it. Give it a font weight of 400 and give it a transition of 0.5 seconds linear. So don't mind this transition I added here. Maybe I added that because I thought I was gonna work on the converter for now, but it's still not bad. If you still go ahead and give it a try, maybe after this tutorial. Then the active buttons, which is the C button active. Remember, we do have an active class as one of the buttons, which is the one we are working on right now. We're gonna give it a background. I don't know why I'm not spelling background color correctly. I want to select the default color. Then let's save that, and you see it's gonna give that a very nice bluish color. So let's go over to the screen. So I want to display everything here as flex because they are gonna like space out, and I want the flex direction to be sorry for that. So this is flex direction to be column, justify content to be flex end, and align items flex end. So what this actually means is that this align item is gonna push it to the right, while the justify content is gonna push it to the bottom. And then we just want to add a transition. So it's not actually necessary because we don't need transition for now. So you could see right here, we can see both the answer and the history pushed to the right end of the screen. Then for the history itself, so remember we have the history answer. We're gonna have a background color of black first. So this black is different from the main black. And then we have a padding of 0.2 rem and 1 rem, top and bottom and left and right. A border radius of 0.5 rem. So we kind of have that nice looking border, and also give it a color. I guess you know we are using the default text color. Then we're gonna give it a font weight of 300, a font size of 16 pixels, which is 1 rem, and then a margin bottom of 0.5 rem units. So that's it for the history answer, and I think we kind of did something wrong there. So that's because right here we are wrapping everything here. So this is supposed to be different, not together with the C answer, because the C answer is totally different from this one. Right here we just have to style the C answer, the calculator answer itself, which is gonna display an inline flex. Now align the items to the center. Also give it a flex direction of row, and then we have the margin bottom of 0.5 frame, a font size of 3 rem, and then we have a color of white because the answer itself is white. Then we have the font weight, not the font size, because we already have the font size. So let me kind of bring this here of 900. So let's save that, and that 0 is going to be more bold than any other text. The next one is the compute, and let's go ahead and style that as well, giving a background color of black first, and then we have to give it a padding of 0.4 rem top and bottom and 1 rem left and right. Then we have to display a grid as well, and then give it a grid template column of. So right here we are going to use something called the min max. So this is the minimum value of 0 pixels and also 50 pixels for the maximum value, and then we want to repeat everything for each fragment. So why we did it that way is because, you know, we have a button here and also we have the answer here. So doing that, we make this to be like separate so that you can see it clearly. So right now you could see we have this nice looking thing. So we're going to add a font size here of 1.8 rem unit and a font weight of 300. Then we can give it a transition of all 0.5. Actually, we don't need this transition. I was actually thinking I will add transition, but it's not necessary for now. Then an overflow should be hidden. So let's style this span itself. See compute span. So we have the letter spacing to be 0.1 rem, and then we have the color, and we're going to use the default text color. Then we have the word wrap, break word, and then we have the word break. So I guess you might be little confused of why we are doing this. Is because we don't actually want the word, like whenever it's too long, we want it to just break. So we want the word break to be break all, and then overflow. So if we add that word break, we don't actually need an overflow. Let's kind of give this a grid column. So we want it to span. Want to span along, and let's save that. So that's kind of looking nice now. And then I want to push it to the right. We can actually use text align to the right. Let me see what. Okay, that kind of looks nice. But that doesn't mean it's on the center. We can give it a padding top of let's say 1 rem. So let's see if that will help. Maybe 0.5 rem units. So that's not really bad. 0.4. The next thing is the button. So the button at the left here. So we have the compute button. Let's give it a background color of we don't actually need a background color for this one, and then give it a font size of 1.2 rem and a color of default text color. So that makes it looks clear and very nice. So the last buttons remaining are the grid buttons. So let's call these the grid buttons. Now for the grid buttons, we have to make a selection of that grid. I want to display everything there as grid, as you might guess, and then we have the grid template columns. So I want to repeat everything into 4 places. So guys, I might be using the auto suggestion because I want to speed up this tutorial. Then we have the padding of 0.5 rem and 1 rem. So let's save that. So right now you could see the grid buttons kind of makes use of everything right here, which is really, really nice. Now there's something I want to show you before we proceed styling this grid button. Right here we have a class called span to. So this is going to make sure that the 0 button here is going to span across to this place, I think to one of these buttons here. So this kind of pushes to the right, so we have enough space for the 0 button to at least make use of the span twice of the button. The button kind of look really awful right now, and let's style the button itself. So we already have a cursor pointer. There is no need to really, do that again. I want to text align everything to the center, give it a font size of 1 rem, a font weight of 500, and give it a text transform of uppercase. Then we have a background color of black second. Then we have a border of 3 pixels solid. So we want to make use of the main black. So we can even just select main black. That way it's gonna make reference or make use of that. So we have these nice looking buttons right now. So I wanna also work on, whenever we hover on these buttons, we kind of get that nice little special effect. So that means that we have to make use of the grid, which is the button hover. Then we have the background color of RGBA 255 255. This is white color, I mean. So we just want only 2% of that whenever we hover the button. So you kind of see we have that nice hover effect. And don't forget, we do have top buttons. Remember when we started off, I added a class of top button right here. So that's basically 3 buttons, 4 buttons, not like 3. So we can say, let me just copy this, and then we can get rid of this hover, and then we can make use of the top button. I want to give it a background color of black second. And then we can also copy this and paste it down. So we can get rid of this. And I want to target the normal button. So we do have normal buttons, which are these buttons here. We also have the special buttons, and then we have the top buttons as well. So for the normal buttons, which is from 789 to 0, we want to give it a background color of, let me use this directly. So let's kind of save to see if we are gonna see any effect, and it seems like nothing is working. So the top button here, it's not supposed to be the black second color, it's supposed to be the first black. So let me save that. That should definitely change. We should actually have this button. Okay, we have it changed right now. So we have different color for this button. So for the normal buttons, we are using the same color. Then for the special kind of buttons, let me do that quickly. Remember, we're gonna use the default color. And then let's see if right now we have this color for each of the special kind of buttons. So all the buttons are looking quite okay right now. So right now you can notice that whenever we hover over this, nothing like happens. What I'll do is to use the importance. So this is gonna help us to override and also change the background of the buttons whenever we hover any of them. Then for the span tool, we're gonna use the grid column, and then we're gonna span across 2. So this will push the 0 buttons to make use of the double space, while equal sign and the dot buttons pushes to the right. So right now this kind of looks very nice and also very responsive on mobile devices. So when we like space it down, you kind of see stays perfectly. Now when we like zoom this out, also is on the center, which is really nice. So we are done with the styling, and let's go over and start working on the functional parts of this tutorial. quickly, I'm going to close this app.css and we are just going to focus on this calculator component. So at the top there, I'm going to bring in the use state because we're going to make use of the use state a lot. We can actually use memo, but for now, we don't actually need it. So I don't need that. Then right here, I'm going to create some default initial state variables. So we have previous answer, and also we have to set the previous answer. So I'm just going to set that equals to use state of empty string. Then we are going to have an answer. So this answer is going to be the one that is going to store our current answer. So whenever we say, let's say 3 plus 3, and he's on the equal sign, is going to store it here. Sorry, it's going to store it here. And also it's going to store it as a history inside this state variable. So this is answer, and also set answer. Use state of, so our default answer is 0. If you can recall here, we do have 0. Then we have operand. So operand are like the computations we are currently working on. So this example of 1. So whenever we are doing computation, it's gonna set that operand for us. So it's just basically gonna be a text. So I'm just gonna set that to empty string. So we're gonna have 3 functions. One is gonna call handle operand, which is gonna take in the event, and then it's gonna get the value of that event. And then whenever the value is being gotten, it's gonna like concate that to the existing operand. So set operand inputs. So we have operand. So what this basically means is get a previous operand, or let's just call this OP, and then we just concate that to the latest value. So whether you are like, let's say 6 plus 6, is gonna like add everything there. So the next function is handle operator, which is gonna handle all these operators right here. So we have handle operator, which is gonna get the value and target.value, and it's gonna handle the operator for us. Of course, we are not doing anything now for the operator, so we are gonna like quietly get there. And the last one is the delete. So this is basically specifically for this delete button. So let's call it handle delete. So we don't actually need to get an event. So what it's just gonna do is to get the existing operand and then remove one value from it. So we are not gonna touch that for now. Let's start off with connecting these functions to the buttons so that we can proceed. So each of these buttons is gonna have the functions connected to it. So for the normal buttons, for the top buttons, we just have the operator because basically they are all operators. Then for the normal buttons, we have the operands, and also we have the operands here. So anyone that has the special class also is for the operator. Then we have the operand as well. So if you check in the design here, you can see, sorry, not this, we don't need the design any longer. We just need to view our browser. So I just close that Figma file. And then we have the handle operand on the normal buttons as well. And then for the special, we have the operator, and also we have the operator right here. So this, okay, the only button with the handle operator that is a normal button is the dots here. So there's nothing wrong with you adding that. So let's just go ahead and save that and scroll back up. So let's get started. So whenever we are typing here, something is actually happening, but let's go ahead and display that inside this C compute. So let me just scroll down and come inside this compute. I will just break this down because I don't want that out, and then comment this out. Then beneath that, I'm just gonna use the curly braces. If we have an operand, display that operand, or else we just wanna display 0 text there. So let's save that and give it a refresh. And that's actually been displayed nicely. And let's go ahead and delete some of this button whenever we click on this. I'm gonna go over to the handle delete. Right here, I want to make sure that operand length, so let me scroll a little bit up. So we have the operand.length is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, we just want to grab the existing operand from the set state. Then what I simply want to do is to slice off the single value from the last one. So we start from the 0 to the last one, but we don't want to display we don't want the last one. So we just want to display from 0 to the 1 before the last one. Let me save that and let's give that a try. And it's not actually working because we've not actually connected this handle delete to the delete button. So sorry for that. That should be right here inside this reverse. So we have an on click and then we can put in the handle delete. So let's save that, and this time around it should work. So right now you could see if I add, let's say, many numbers there and I want to reduce that, I can just go ahead and delete that. And I want it that whenever we click on this all clear button, we should actually clear everything inside this operand. I'm gonna go over to the handle operator. Let's say if all clear. I'm gonna check for the value. If it's equal to all clear, we just want to set the operand to empty string and then set the answer back to 0 in case we do have an answer. And once we are done, we just want to stop, like we just want to return so that we don't proceed. So when I click on this, it's going to reset anything I put here, is going to reset it back to 0. And also it's going to reset the answer back to 0. Right now, it seems like whenever we click on 5 and we want to click on an operator, it's not actually being added there. Let's go ahead and work on that. I'm going to come over to the handle operator function and I'm going to create a new variable called operand, but I'm just going to use the less keyword. So what I'm simply going to check first, okay, if I do something, let's say if I do something like set operand, which is going to be, let's just say the operand plus the value. If we type something like 5 plus, that should definitely work, but I don't know why. Because right here we are setting the operand. Yeah, so you could see, okay, it's not yet saved. So whenever we type something like 5 plus 5, you could see it's been added, but right now you could see we are getting like multiple of these. So let's stop that from happening. Let's add an if statement, and we just want to check the last character of the operand against the current value of the operator. If they are the same, we just want to return, or else we just want to concate that current value to the operand. Let's say 5 plus 3 plus plus. So it kind of freezes that, but there's a mistake here. Sorry, there's something wrong as well. Whenever we click on minus, we want to replace this plus with that minus instead of us to like concate that to the operand, which is not really what we want. So the way we can fix that is to actually check if the last character is a number. So we can actually use a number here, and then we get the operand last value. So we want to check if it's a number. So if it's a number, we don't want to do anything except if it is not a number. So that's why I added this exclamation sign there. So we can actually return this here. Sorry, we don't need to return that here. We have to perform something else. So I'm just going to add an else inside here. So I also want to add a return. Let's just give this a try. So let's say we have 6 minus 6 plus. So whenever I try to add something like another operator, it's not gonna like continue. So the next thing we want to do is, if we have something like 6 plus 6 and maybe you kind of change your mind to add another another operator, like maybe you want to do a multiplication, we actually want to replace this plus sign with that. To do that quickly, we come over inside this place that is not a number. Then we have to remove the last character from operand. Then we can now make reference the new operand and set it equals to the operand.slice. So we just want to get everything except the last one, and then we can set operand to new operand plus the value. So the value is the current value we just selected. So let's say if I select a multiplication sign, you see it kind of replaces that. If I select a plus sign, if I select a division sign, it replaces it. Also percentage and any other sign we just select is going to replace that. So one more thing before we cross this stage, there is something I want to show you. So if we say something like 6 plus 20, whenever we select another operator, it's going to replace that 0, which we don't actually want. We want our 0 to still be there for us. So to fix that, we want to check if the last character as well is equals to, if it's equals to 0, that's if it is convertible to a number and that number it results to 0. So this is not supposed to be inside here. This is supposed to be outside here. What I want to do is to set operand to new operand plus, we use backticks and then we add a 0 plus the current value as well. Then we just want to make sure we return as well. So for every other thing here, please always make sure you add a return in order to stop there. Let's save that and give this a try. I think we are actually getting something wrong. So let's kind of, so I think I added an F character, an F constant, which is not actually defined. So let's give this a try. So let's say 6 plus 20, 60 plus 30 plus, so you get a point. It's not going to replace that 0 any longer. So even if we change that, it's still going to be whatever it is. Let's go on to make sure that whenever we click on the equals sign, it's going to like take our operand value and show out the answer to us. So before we proceed there, I would like us to add a comment right here. So check if the last operand character is 0. So let's get down here and add a switch statement. Right here, we are going to have a case of equals sign. And we also gonna have a default. So for the default, we just want to add a return. But then for the case of equals sign, we're just gonna take every other thing in the operand and compute that out. First off, we have to set the answer to evaluate of the operand, and when we are done, we just have to reset the operand back to empty string, and also we have to set the previous answer, but we only set the previous answer if it is greater than 0. So we just have to set the previous answer to the current answer we do have. So let's save that and give that a try. So let's say 3 plus 3. That was supposed to actually show. Okay, that is actually showing right now. Let's go ahead and change that 0 text here. So we can now replace this with the answer, and definitely the answer should show there. So you see 3 plus 3 is 6. And let's say 6 plus 2, definitely 8. And if you notice here, it kind of resets this back to 0 as well, because we reset the operand back to empty string. And here we give a condition that if it's empty string, we just want to display 0 instead of display nothing. So let's say you want to add like multiple numbers, like for example 3 plus 3 plus 3. So we want it that whenever we have something like 3 plus 3, and immediately you hit another plus sign, it's gonna automatically compute this for you and also bring back that plus sign. So the way we can do that, it's very simple as well. We are gonna have a case of plus sign, and then we have to set the operand. We have to evaluate whatever it's currently on the operand, and then we concate that sign value to it. And then lastly, we also have to break. Also make sure you add a break here so that we don't just like continue. So break everything out. So let's say 3 plus 3 plus, so whenever I hit another plus or any other sign, it's going to automatically compute that initial value and then give us the answer, and we can still go ahead and add that, and it's going to still give us an answer. Then for the negative sign, we have the case of negative, and then we just want to set the operand. In this case, we are using backtick, and then we have to evaluate whatever is in the operand as well. So in this case, we just want to like bring in the, so this is just similar to this, any way you want to do it, but it's just similar to that. It's not really bad, but for me, I prefer that you do this because at some point I think it might actually add the number for you. Okay, there's no way it can add a number. Yeah, I can remember. Yeah. So we're almost done with the tutorial. Then we have the case of division. So for division itself, division is kind of a little bit complicated, but let's just go ahead and do it. So we have eval operand, and then we can now also print out the value. And then lastly, we have to break. So why I said it's kind of complicated is because here, let's say we want to 6 divided by 2, and this was supposed to like give us 3 before we like, let's say we want another division. Okay, that's actually working because I was thinking maybe it's not gonna work. So okay, it's actually working perfectly. I think I kind of did things more straightforward on this tutorial than the one I built. Let's proceed to work on the plus or minus sign. I want it in such a way that whenever we have a positive number and click on this sign right here, it's going to convert that to a negative number. And to do that, we just have to come below this all clear. So I want to handle the plus and minus sign. So I want to check the value. If the value is equal to P and M, like this P and M text right here, and also the operand, let's say, okay, this one is to check the operand, it's empty, we just want to return. So we actually need this at the top level, but for now let's just continue, we still get back to that. So I'm just gonna define a calculated variable here, but I'm just gonna use the let, and then I'm gonna get the last character. So let's say we have 3 points. So if we have 3 points, we just want to target this last character here. If that last character can be converted to a number, or else. So what we are simply doing here, we are just simply checking against some other operator, and also let's say just a single value. So if this is just a single value, or we just have something like a dot or plus or minus at the back. So if it's a number, we just have to set calculated to eval operand. So this is just going to definitely give us that value, but it's gonna like convert that from a string to a real number. So we just want to make sure that we just want to check if it is a positive or negative number with the math dot sign. Then we pass in the calculated. So in this case, I want to check if it is less than 0. If it is less than 0, that means it's a negative number. Then I have to set the calculated back to math.absolute and then pass that, which is just gonna set that to true. And then we set the operand to that calculated value, and then we have to convert that to a string, or else if it's a false, we have to, if it's a positive, we have to convert it to a string. So we just have to set operand, and I'm gonna add a negative here and then concate that calculated to string. So if everything it's gonna work perfectly, let's just give this a try. So when I click on this, that was supposed to convert it to a negative number, and I think it's because we didn't add a return right here. We also have to add a return right here to actually stop that. So sorry for that. So let's say 3, and it's gonna convert that to a positive. So when I click on this, it's gonna reconvert that. So that's probably because we have just a single value. So let's say we have something like 3 dots. So when we click on this, okay, still working, not bad. So that probably means that we don't actually need this else. So I kind of like the way I just did things directly on this tutorial. So that's actually working very fine. And one more thing we forgot to do is the fact that we didn't actually change this to the previous answer. So this is previous answer, and please make sure it's on curly braces. So this is where we track our previous answers. So let me save that, and let's say 3 plus 3. So when we click on all clear, that was supposed to actually set our previous answer. So right here we have the answer to 0. So before we set the answer to 0, we just want to make sure that that answer is greater than 0. So if the answer is greater than 0, I want to set the previous answer. This is previous answer. Let me just correct that. So I want to set that to the answer. Also make sure you correct that down at the switch statement, I think. So right here, you just have to correct that, and that should definitely work. So let's say 3 plus 3. So when I clear this, it's gonna store that at that previous answer. So guys, the only thing left for you to do is to work on the percentage. It's very simple for you to do. So that's basically your test. The tutorial is actually elongated than the way I thought it would be. So guys, thank you for watching, and make sure you hit the like button and also the subscribe button